Hello, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing an analysis type video where I take a look at Peterbot's gameplay on his kill record solo cash cup game and dissect what makes him so good at applying pressure effectively and safely. So before we get into the analysis, we have to take a look at his game history to get some insight on the skill level of his lobby. So we can see in the first game he got a 25 kill win, which is very good. But then for the next 4 games, he got 0 kills and he died off spawn. So this lobby is not going to be the best, but it's not going to be the worst either because he had an amazing first game. Also, we don't have information on how long he waited for the 6th game. He could have waited longer for the 6th game in order to make the lobbies worse. So let's get into it. Okay, so one thing I'm going to say before Peterbot lands is that these lobbies tend to be worse than like your average ranked game, your average Unreal ranked game. That's why Peterbot's able to drop like 41 kills. It's why he might take more calculated risk in terms of his fighting because he knows these players are worse. I think some of this is knowing his opponent's location. Okay, so he's completely willing to take a 50-50 because he has HP advantage. I do talk about this in my other videos, but basically if you take a 50-50 and have HP advantage, you're probably going to win this like 95 to 99% of the time. If you're Peterbot, you have the aim, you have the consistency in the movement, you're probably winning this almost every time. 2 a.m. Timo FE. So, okay, he misses all the shots. So you can see these players aren't very good. We already talked about this, but like if that's a pro, he's easily hitting for at least 100 there, right? But this guy, he just completely misses them. Okay, so this is a very small detail that some of you guys might overlook. It looks like Peterbot's movement might be a bit bad, but actually what he's doing is he's baiting out his opponent to edit this wall with his movement and with the shotgun. He's making his opponent think he's about to do a bad peek, a bad approach, in order to get a double pickaxe off. And I talk about this concept inside of my hidden fundamentals of approaching video, where you can bait out your opponent to insta-edit on a wrong wall to distract them from the fact that you're going to double pickaxe this wall, to let you get that first pickaxe off safely. So in my approaching video, I actually talked about baiting out their edits with builds, but here Peterbot does it with his movement. I think this is a big difference between Peterbot and other pros and why he's so much more dominant in fights than them, because he has these ways to get off these double pickaxes. You're going to notice that I think in most of the fights that we've already reviewed so far, he's double pickaxed. And that's sort of something that you don't really see in any other pro. Okay, so here he gets the double pickaxe off and it allows him to get that shot off. And you have to understand double pickaxing inherently improves your tempo. Here he instantly goes for peace. And then he's going to do the 1x1 approach, I think. Yeah, okay. So he places cones everywhere. And the reason is because if we look at this in third person, he is getting third party, but it's okay. Sorry, not third person, drone free. If we look at this in drone free, you can see that he got the wall here and this edit is open. So effectively this box, his opponent doesn't want to play from the box that my camera's in right now. Okay, his opponent doesn't really want to go back. So he's pretty much playing against a 1x1 here. And the counter to the 1x1 is to place cones and floors everywhere. Usually I just place cones everywhere, but I think the reason Peterbot is placing floors every once in a while is to mix things up, make it harder for his opponent to just only use floors. He has to think about his builds, think about if he's going to place a cone or a floor. It might give him a bit of extra tempo. Okay, so it's interesting that he places both. But by doing this, when his opponent does decide to make more boxes, he's going to have better tempo because he only has to go through one layer of builds. He's also restricting his opponent, discouraging him from making more boxes. So a lot of opponents will just sort of bot out and stay in the box as you pressure it. Okay, so let's continue here. This is the 1x1 punish. I do talk about this in my approaching video, but basically this is a good way to get better tempo. And what I think he's going to do here is drop down. Yep. He's going to drop down into the standard diagonal approach because he has a third party attacking him. And the standard diagonal approach is much better for dealing with third parties because you can isolate your opponent much better and you can position him in between you and your third party. Okay. By staying on top, his opponent, the third party, has a lot easier access to shoot it. Okay, here he goes for a double pickaxe. I don't know if this was just like he's just playing riskier, or if he actually saw the edit that his opponent has inside the box. But you can see his opponent's not positioned well, and the edit is kind of limiting him to allow him to do a sort of like peek on him. And here he does an edit bait, just throws an edit bait in, I guess. Maybe his opponent's going for a peek. Common attack structure. Okay, here he kind of like baits out with his movement again. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but he does end up baiting his opponent out, and he does get a double pickaxe off here. Okay, and this is a concept you guys have to be aware of when you're approaching, is that when you take a wall, it changes the situation, oftentimes to a common situation that you're already experiencing. Okay, so when he takes this wall here, it effectively makes it into a standard diagonal box fighting scenario where you see that Peterbot is approaching this box from a diagonal angle, and he has this wall on the left here to protect him. Okay, so we're back to the standard diagonal box fighting approach. Okay, and he treats it just as so. He knows his opponent's wall is low, and he finally gets that opportunity. His opponent's a bit too slow. So this is what you have to understand. His opponent's like trying to go for counterplay, but Peterbot is approaching very accurately, very safely, and keeping up good tempo with his movement baits, with his ways to bait out his opponent to making edits. Nothing here looks like, to me, that he's taking an unnecessary risk. Okay? He's playing very fundamentally sound, and his opponent pretty much has no options. Eventually, if you restrict your opponent enough and you create enough opportunities, you're going to eventually get an opportunity to hit a shot. Okay? Eventually, you're going to get damage on your opponent. Eventually, your opponent's either going to make a mistake, or you're going to create an opportunity where you punish your opponent. You have to think about it like this. When you get to a higher level of gameplay, there's not a lot of ways that we tend to get damaged. It tends to be pretty simple. At the end of the day, the way Peterbot gets damaged, the way every pro gets damaged is like a few attacks. Things like opening an edit and shooting, edit baiting, peeks. Those are the main ways to get attacks. Like, I literally can't really think of anything else. Maybe pre-fires, but that's more of a defensive option, right? Okay, so those are the main ways you create attacks. At the end of the day, a lot of times what it comes down to is simply creating more of those opportunities to create those attacks. Peterbot is very good at creating these opportunities. You can see he's restricting his opponent at every step of the way. And then once again, you see he's willing to take a 50-50 on his opponent because he has HP advantage. Okay, he sees this guy. Uses Peeker's advantage. Okay, so this is a very common read. After you damage your opponent, a lot of times their first instinct is going to be to make more boxes. And the most common direction to make a box is probably the left side. I also recommend the rebox sequence, this variation of the rebox sequence where you go out of the left side, because it's just simply the fastest way to make a box. But in certain situations like this one, it's not such a good decision to go out the left side and make another box. This guy, Adrian, he just instinctively does that. And yeah, Peterbot reads that and gets the piece on him, gets the read on him. This is an obvious mistake from his opponent, just instantly running. He's not very calm. He's trying to run away with the sword. So, and you can see Peterbot's very willing to use Peeker's advantage, using the gravity there, in order to take a shot. Okay, so this is how Peterbot gets a lot of his damage, is just abusing Peeker's advantage. Especially for initial damage, he oftentimes uses Peeker's advantage. I actually think he used it that fight with the gliding into the sprint. He used Peeker's advantage to get the initial damage. Okay, so you can see these players aren't very good. Like this guy just crouching around like he's a bot. Yeah, it gets cracked. So instantly willing to take an even trade because he has HP advantage. You heard the guy get cracked. Okay, I think peeking with the pickaxe out, I think adding with the pickaxe out was a bit greedy in my opinion. I would just normally just pull out my shotgun instantly. But he does get the shot off. He does ramp his opponent off. Now, this is probably the most common read in the game. At least what I think he's going to do is read here. Whenever you slide a stair into your opponent's box, the first instinct is going to be to get out of the box. And once again, the most common side to rebox out of is the left side. Like from your opponent's perspective, it's the left side. So what I think Peterbot's going to do here is he's going to read to the left side. Another common place to go is the backside. So maybe Peterbot will read to the backside. We'll see. Yeah, so he instantly goes for the read to the side, the left side. messes up with a shotgun there, but he's very willing to finish the fight with his AR. If you guys don't have this ability to confidently take that finishing 50-50 with your AR, then you probably need to aim train a bit. This is the direction that competitive fighting is going, is that we need to be able to finish fights quickly, even if it means that we don't have shotgun ammo, even if it means that it's with our AR. Because if you think about it, even if our opponent lands a shot in the 50-50, if they hit us with their shotgun, we still have the jump. Yeah, we do have the jump on getting our AR out, on pulling our AR out first. So it's going to be like as if we took a 50-50 and we got the first shot. It's going to be like that pretty much. Crazy Ma 8. Okay, so these guys are just bots. I don't know. Dude's a controller player. I guess he was willing to take a 50-50 there once again because he had HP advantage. I think that was a bit of a mistake, but you can see how willing Peterbot is to take trades. It might be because he has chug splashes, but I don't think so. I think he's just willing to take trades because he's super confident in his ability to play defensively. Even if trades don't go his way, he's still confident in his ability to, you know, play defensively and recover. Okay, here he's going for a read on the Mongrel Classic. He misses the edit. It's interesting, he instantly goes into this other option. I don't know if this is planned out, but it definitely creates more opportunity for him. Okay, so right here, we get a bit of replay lag, but Peterbot edits this and instantly pickaxes once. I think this normally would be a bit risky. Like if he was fighting another pro, I think this would be very risky. But in these kind of tournament games where the players aren't so good, or even in ranked, I think practically the best decision is to go for the pickaxe here. And the reason is because when you get piece that you're really not supposed to have, whether it be because of ping or your opponent just accidentally misses a build or something, for example, this cone here in this situation, you need to try to abuse it immediately in order to awareness check your opponent. Okay, so when Peterbot gets this cone that he's really not supposed to get, all right, so he's fighting this guy. When he gets this cone that he's really not supposed to get, looks like his opponent just forgot it probably. He instantly goes for the pickaxe, knowing that his opponent's not going to be aware that he doesn't have a cone there. Okay? So it's fairly safe. I think practically it's the best decision, but if you're fighting like other pros, it probably isn't the best decision. I think it's a bit risky to drop with the pickaxe chop down there, but maybe he sees this guy's skin, maybe saw him in the kill feed, he knows he's not that good. I don't know, I think it's a bit of a risky decision. He sees this guy's on shotgun cooldown, so I guess he just keeps spraying. Very confident in his AR aim, right? Willing to take a trade. Okay, so once again, he has these fast heals, he has the shield fish, so he knows he's going to have a timing here in order to 50-50 this guy. And maybe the fact that his opponent has no cone on his box is playing a part in this, because the reason he gets in is because his opponent forgets the cone, right? His opponent's busy placing the cone, not aware that Peterbot's already in the cone. He's able to force this 50-50. Sorry, here we see the strength of HP advantage show itself in the 50-50. He takes pretty much an even trade, but he wins the fight because he has significant HP advantage. Okay, so he's shooting at this guy. This guy instantly makes a mistake. Okay, you can't just go in the air like this. You can't just assume your opponent's going to have bad aim. That's a very obvious mistake. So yeah, these players aren't very good. All right, I think this might be the first time that Peterbot, I can't really remember, but I think this is the first time that Peterbot is able to be one-shotted by a shotgun. Like his HP is low enough to be in one-shot capability from his opponent. And instead of continuing to aggress, you see that he actually chose to pop his mini. A lot of people think of Peterbot as this super aggressive player, the super aggressive play style. And I argue that he's not really taking unnecessary risk. He's not really being unnecessarily aggressive. Here, he's sticking to the fundamentals. He knows that he's able to be one shot. And even if this guy Toto, even if he's bad, even if he's a worse player, there's still a chance that they take an even trade and that he gets the shot off first. And just due to the variance in this game, that could mean the end of Peterbot's game. So he chooses to pop a mini so that he's less likely to be one-shotted. He could still be one-shotted, but it's far less likely. Okay? Even though his opponent is 1 HP, literally 1 AR bullet, he chooses to heal up instead. I think another option that he could have done is beforehand. Let's go back. I think another option that he could have done here, knowing his opponent's 1 HP, is simply creating more space, like distance between him and his opponent, and just spraying his AR. Because if he does that, if he has more distance, then he's outside of one-shot range, and his opponent's one-shot to an AR, and he could just get 1 bullet to bleed through, the fight's over. But he chooses to just do the simpler option of just healing up so that he's not able to be one-shotted. So I think that's very interesting to take note of. He's not being overly aggressive. He is actually taking calculated risk here. See, he takes a shot. This shot could have been for 100. This shot could have been for 105. It was only 20, but it definitely could have been for more if this guy's aim was a bit better. And the mini could have definitely helped him in that scenario to actually be able to recover. All right, here his opponent makes a very common blunder of just healing with 1 layer between him and his opponent. Gets a 50 damage advantage on this guy. I think he's starting to realize how bad this lobby is with how aggressive he's playing. So that peek right there actually wasn't that bad. It kind of looked like a left-hand peek, but it really wasn't because he was falling, so he had gravity to give him a bit of peeker's advantage. So it really wasn't that bad. Instantly goes for the read. Here he's willing to take a 50-50 with his AR. You can kind of see how confident he is with his AR, and he knows that even if his opponent lands a shot on him, as long as he's able to follow up with his AR and a straight 50-50, he's able to finish this fight. I think this is part of the power of the gold, what's this called? Hammer? I don't remember what it's called, but but yeah, this gold assault rifle. This is pretty good for spraying. Every once in a while in the seasons, you get like these meta items that just bleed through walls like an insane amount. So you see how willing he is to take a balloon battle here. He's just this confident in his ability to play defensively. The ability to recover from a trade going the wrong way. All right. And then here you can see he instantly tries to abuse Peeker's advantage. I think Peeker's advantage is a great way to get that initial damage. I think I said this earlier, but it's one of the main ways that I would opt for getting initial damage when it's even health and close range fight. Is just abusing Peeker's advantage, being willing to trade. Because this trade's probably going to go in his favor. I think this was a bit of a mistake. I think he probably could have like shotgunned the wall here instead of jumping up. Placed a stair, gone for a read. But it's okay. He gets the top piece. Yep. And his opponent's full box here. So he is in one-shot capability, but he has his opponent full box here. All he has to do is take a smart peek. Fight's over. You don't want to like, if your opponent's full box, you definitely want to at least get a bit of damage. Okay, instantly goes for double edit. All right, so it looks like right here he's taking a bad peek, right? It looks like he's taking left-hand peek. But what you have to understand is that this kind of attack is actually not a peek. There are various, like we can think about the categories of attacks. Like I was saying earlier, there's really only 3 main attacks that we tend to do as advanced players, is editing and shooting, edit baiting, and peeks. This is editing and shooting. This isn't a peek. It looks like a peek, but really it isn't. His intention isn't to peek here, it's to edit and shoot. And with the new shotguns and their very low pullout time, something like this is actually quite strong. So you see, he instantly goes for a shot. He's not really going for a peek. His opponent just runs at him with the sword. Okay, so he instantly knows the counter to the sword. I mean, as a pro, obviously he's going to know this, but you just go up, you elevate yourself very well. Against the sword, you take pre-fires. There you go. Fight's over. Okay. Here he drops with his pickaxe out, and he actually chops, but based on his opponent's positioning, there's not really an edit he can do where he's going to be able to get damage without getting this return damage. So trades are good for him because he has HP advantage. We know that. And he just sits here, he pickaxe baits. It's interesting he waits till the last second, but yeah, he's very adept at knowing what his opponent's capable of with their movement. Okay, he knows his opponent can't really do a good peek here without this wall here, and for him to actually create an opportunity, he's going to need to spend quite a bit of time getting into this box here. So he knows it's pretty safe to bait with the pickaxe. Here he just goes for a double pickaxe. I don't know, maybe he saw his opponent was turning around, so he just goes for a double pickaxe. I don't know. His opponent's playing weird. And then his ability to slide there and abuse his movement, simultaneously unpeaking while his opponent is peaking. I mean, that's just insane. Like, I don't really know what to say about that. Double pickaxe. So already I'm looking to see, okay, our opponent just double pickaxed, but then he's holding out a shotgun a lot. Okay, right here, he tries to go for an aggressive punish on this sort of top approach. This seems to be his go-to from what I've seen in his gameplay. Most top approaches, he just like sort of pieces them up. But he does get pre-fired here. It's kind of unfortunate. He was going for an edit bait. He gets pre-fired. So, but look at what we're going to see here. He doesn't continue to fight. He doesn't continue to play aggressively. Look at what he does. He runs away. He tries to play his heels. Okay? Look at this. Look at all the space. Okay, well, he's insane at making boxes. This is kind of like the new age fighter. I know this video is focused on keeping up good tempo, applying good pressure. But I think this is worth noting. When things don't go his way, when things go south, he is very willing to play defensively and heal up. Okay, he makes 80,000 boxes. Now, do I think he would have made this many boxes out of metal in like finals? I don't think so. I think like he's not going to waste all his metal, right? But I think in this lobby, he knows he can probably just W key to get his metal back. So no point in being stingy about it. Here he just shoots his opponent out, pretty strong. All right, so this is one thing to take note of, is he has his opponent full boxed. There's no rush, right? There's no rush. A lot of people would rush to instantly just try and like Mongrel Classic this guy. What Peterbot wants to do is a smart edit, a smart play. And so what he does is he edit baits. And in my opinion, if you can do an edit bait and your opponent's stuck in one position, it's one of the strongest attacks, if not the strongest attack. Because your opponent's on shotgun cooldown, there's zero chance of them returning damage. Nothing they can do can possibly result in you getting return damage. Okay? So this is why I think the edit bait in the scenario is so good. Also good, this is definitely one of the scenarios where it's good. Once again, he's on shotgun cooldown, so he can just spray. He sprays his own build. Opponent's definitely not going to suspect that. Or, sorry, expect that. Tester. Okay, so he instantly notices that his opponent does not have a floor on his roof. Okay, above him. Anytime that your opponent forgets a build piece like this, especially the floor is the strongest one, because if you get the floor, you can just double pickaxe away, like Peterbot does just now, and you can just instantly go for a very simple play where you're pretty much awareness checking your opponent, because they're not going to expect that you only have to go through one piece, right? Instantly goes for the piece, get HP advantage. He has the Invis medallion. Okay, so around this point, I mean, you can see he's getting a ton of kills. How many kills is he at? 24? Okay, so he has the Invis medallion. I don't really think I want to watch that much farther with the Invis medallion. It's not as fundamental. Yeah, approaches from below. He shoots out his opponent below. Okay, his opponent's just going up here. He's pretty protective. But I think he just outpaces his opponent because he has the sprint medallion, right? The infinite sprint. So I don't know if he knows that or if he's just like doing that, but he does abuse it intentionally or unintentionally. He goes for the top piece immediately. Instantly goes into the top diagonal approach, pickaxe angle. He's always abusing this. Okay. So this is part of the rebox sequence theory. I talk about this in depth on my defensive box fighting video. His opponent tries to rebox, but he shoots out his opponent's cone and goes for AR sprays and gets a few shots on him and baits out one of his shots. So the final layer of the rebox sequence theory is that in order to get damage on it, you shotgun their cone and you spray with your AR. Fight ends very quickly. A good thing about shooting the cone there as well is that a lot of times your opponents will miss the edit because their cone below them is being shot out. So they'll miss the edit and they won't be able to make another box. They'll just sit there and die. J money, like look at these opponents, J money. This guy's obviously not that good. 50-50 after 50-50. You have to understand these players are the most passive players in the lobby because they're making it to the end. And at this level of points, they're probably not going to be that great if they're playing passive. So, okay. I'm going to stop it here because these kills are not really like related to applying pressure properly. I mean, these guys are all bots. He has the Invis coin. It's not really fundamental fighting, right? I think I got my main points across. So this is how you create good tempo, guys. You just simply make very accurate and safe decisions. These aren't necessarily passive decisions. They're just the best decision. And when you make the best decision over and over and over again, and your opponents feel like they're backed into a corner and they're out of options, they tend to make mistakes. They tend to do stupid plays, or you eventually just get an opportunity to get some damage on them to finish the fight. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know a lot of you guys were requesting it. Thanks for watching.